Today is Saturday, August 26th, 2023, and this is the Dunkley Report. President Vladimir Putin's spokesperson, Dmitry Peskov, has rejected allegations that the Kremlin was behind a plane crash that is presumed to have killed mercenary leader Yevgeny Prigozhin. His brutal fighters were feared in Ukraine, Africa, and Syria, and conducted a brief but shocking mutiny in Russia 2 months ago. Prigozhin was listed among those aboard the private jet that went down Wednesday. He was eulogized Thursday by Putin, even as suspicions grew that the Russian leader was behind the crash that many saw as an assassination. A preliminary U.S. intelligence assessment concluded that the plane was downed by an intentional explosion. Over the years, Kremlin political critics, turncoat spies, and journalists have been killed in a variety of ways. Their deaths range from the exotic, from drinking polonium-laced tea or touching a deadly nerve agent, to the more mundane of getting shot at close range. None, however, has been known to perish in an air accident. On Wednesday, a private plane carrying a mercenary chief who staged a brief rebellion in Russia plummeted into a field from tens of thousands of feet after breaking apart. Assassination attempts against foes of President Vladimir Putin have been common during his nearly quarter-century in power. Relatives of the victims and the few survivors have blamed Russian authorities, but the Kremlin has routinely denied any involvement. A camera clicks. In a fraction of a second, the shutter opens and then closes, freezing forever the image in front of it. When the camera shutter blinked inside a jail in downtown Atlanta Thursday, it both created and documented a tiny inflection point in American life. Captured for posterity, there was a former president of the United States, for the first time in history, under arrest and captured in the sort of frame more commonly associated with drug dealers or drunken drivers. The trappings of power gone for that split second. Left behind is an enduring image that will appear in history books long after Donald Trump is gone. The continued strength of the U.S. economy could require further interest rate increases, Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell said in a closely watched speech that also highlighted the uncertain nature of the economic outlook. Powell noted that the economy has been growing faster than expected and that consumers have kept spending briskly, trends that could keep inflation pressures high. Speaking at an annual conference of central bankers in Jackson Hole, Wyoming, Powell reiterated the Fed's determination to keep its benchmark rate elevated until inflation is reduced to its 2% target. Although inflation has moved down from its peak, a welcome development, it remains too high, he said. Within a day of Maui County releasing 388 names of people unaccounted for, following the deadliest U.S. wildfire in more than a century, more than 100 of them, or their relatives, have come forward to say they're safe. That information comes from the FBI, which is reviewing the information provided and working to remove the names from the list. Several people on the list told the Associated Press earlier Friday that they are alive and well. A few also said they were confused or frustrated to be on it. At least 2 other names are people who are known to have perished but have not yet been positively identified as deceased. The South Carolina Supreme Court upheld a ban on most abortions this week, but left undecided the question of when exactly the fetal heartbeat limit begins during pregnancy. Doctors practicing under the strict law cannot punt on that question. Up for debate is whether the law's definition of fetal heartbeat as cardiac activity or the rhythmic contraction of the fetal heart refers to the same or 2 separate points in a pregnancy. Physicians say the unclear guidance is chilling medical practice, and abortion providers seek a rehearing based on the ambiguity. Republican South Carolina, Senate Majority Leader. Shane Massey says the law provides precise directions for medical professionals. The president of Spain's Soccer Federation has defiantly refused to resign for kissing a female player on the lips after the Women's World Cup final. Luis Rubiales told a General Assembly of the Federation on Friday that his kiss with player Jenny Hermoso on Sunday in Sydney, Australia, was consensual. Hermoso strongly denied his version in two separate statements. Hermoso and her teammates say they will no longer play for Spain if Rubiales doesn't step down, and Spain's government says it will seek his suspension. Fencing and construction workers greet visitors to the Lincoln Memorial, signaling the monument to the nation's 16th president is a work in progress. And so is the nation Abraham Lincoln saved, and the dream Martin Luther King Jr. envisioned nearly 60 years ago as he spoke from the steps of the memorial. That's what visitors tell the Associated Press as the 60th anniversary of the March on Washington for Jobs and Freedom approaches. Tourists and residents visiting the Lincoln and MLK memorials and the African American Museum of History and Culture reflect on the historic speech and agree that while there have been steps backward, some progress has been made. Republican and independent support for gun restrictions is slipping a year after Congress passed the most comprehensive firearms safety legislation in decades with bipartisan support. A poll from the Associated Press NORC Center for Public Affairs Research shows the gap between Democrats and Republicans on the issue of guns is widening. Democrats consistently outpace Republicans and independents in their belief gun laws in the U.S. should be strengthened. The poll finds GOP support has dropped even further behind over the past year. 92% of Democrats want stronger gun laws. Republican desire for more expansive legislation has dropped to 32% from 49% last summer. Independents' support declined slightly to 61% from 72%. Former President Donald Trump and the 18 people indicted along with him in Georgia on charges that they participated in a wide-ranging illegal scheme to overturn the results of the 2020 election have all turned themselves in to a jail in Atlanta before the deadline, at noon Friday. After Trump was booked Thursday evening, 7 co-defendants who had not yet surrendered did so Friday morning. All but one of those charged had agreed to a bond amount and conditions with Fulton County District Fani Willis ahead of time, and they were free to go after booking. Today's news was reported by the Associated Press. This has been the World News for Saturday, August 26, 2023. Thanks again for joining us at The Dunkley Report.